My Govanen, and happy Hobbit Day, I hope. I came up with this idea rather late in the game, so I'm trying to get this out for the Hobbit Day collaboration. Not 100% sure if I made it yet, because I'm just now recording, obviously. But hopefully I did make the collaboration. And for Hobbit Day, I was having a hard time coming up with a good topic. And then I came up with one rather by chance, because as it happens, I started reading The Lord of the Rings to my kids at my oldest child's request, and I'm in the first couple of chapters, and at the same time, I happen to get on my playlist on my phone a recording of J.R.R. Tolkien reading the Riddles in the Dark chapter. What do these two things have in common? Well, Gandalf talking to Frodo about the history of the ring talks about Gollum's grandmother. And in the Riddles in the Dark chapter, there is also a reference to Gollum's grandmother regarding her teaching him to suck eggs, because eggs is the answer to Bilbo's very impromptu riddle about a golden chest with no hinges but with golden treasure inside. And the thought occurred to me that this probably actually means that Bilbo edited that section of his story after Gandalf found out about Gollum's history. And the reason I say that is, why would Bilbo have put something in the Red Book about Gollum's grandmother teaching him to suck eggs when he has no idea of Gollum's personal history? He doesn't know anything about Gollum at all, and he's writing this as if he's a third-party omniscient narrator, because all Gollum actually says in the text is eggs. He just gives the answer. And there's no explanation for how the narrator could possibly know about Gollum's grandmother. And why would Bilbo, looking from the outside, just happen to pick his grandmother? Why wouldn't it be his mother or, somebody else? I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think it would be a more distant relative. You would think it would be a closer ancestor like your parent. So it occurred to me that it makes more sense, actually, that Gandalf is the one who supplied this information to Bilbo, who edited the Red Book after the fact. And we know this is possible because after Gandalf tells this stuff to Frodo, even if he hasn't seen Bilbo in the interim, it's still the case that he would have been there in Rivendell for some time before Frodo regains consciousness and had plenty of time to talk to Bilbo in the meantime. One of the things that we know for sure that Gandalf does learn is about Gollum's grandmother, who apparently was the matriarch of the family and who kicked Gollum out after he became a sneak and a just downright, loathsome person after obtaining the ring. And so this idea that Gandalf would have told Bilbo that, and then Bilbo could have gone back and been like, oh, you know what? If this person was so important in Gollum's life, maybe that's who taught him about sucking eggs. And that's how I can explain how he knew the answer to that riddle. So the thought occurred to me, just having these two passages come to my attention more or less at the same time. Gandalf could have been responsible, in the in-world explanation, of course, for the information which Bilbo used to write a part of the Riddles in the Dark chapter. This gets more interesting when we consider the whole Hobbit retcon, of course, because in the Hobbit retcon, there's a lot of things going on. One of the things that we are told in the appendices, or maybe it was the prologue, I forget which, is that Frodo and Sam didn't really want to edit anything that Bilbo wrote, so we can be fairly certain that neither Frodo nor Sam is the one who interpolated this section about the grandmother teaching Gollum to suck eggs. They would not have added that. Bilbo would have been the only one who did, but Frodo and Sam did apparently write a second version of the chapter based on the true events. Bilbo, of course, has the grandmother sucking eggs in the early version, so they kept that in, but presumably that came from Gandalf. But the fun thing about this is, if we take in this whole thing about the Hobbit retcon, where Bilbo originally tells the story one way, then we have this additional change. Not only did Frodo and Sam have to write a second version of the chapter to show the true events as they actually happened, but we know that Bilbo actually must have revised his own chapter subsequent to Gandalf getting this information, which is interesting because we know he already told the other version of the story as well as the true version of the story, though he didn't write it down, to Frodo and maybe some other people as well. So it's really interesting to think about how this creates the probability of multiple layers of editing based on additional information coming to light over time, which means possibly there might be even more changes that happened in some of those chapters due to information that Gandalf found out. Did Bilbo maybe edit some of his own thoughts and things in the story as well to more reflect the fact that the ring was already kind of getting some kind of inroad on his mind, to make it a little more obvious to the careful reader that he was really, being affected by the ring already in some small, subtle ways. But it just struck me as really fascinating because one of the cool things about the way Tolkien retcons his material is he always finds a way to make it make sense. And this particular example is a great one in terms of showing how even within the realm of retconning material, he's not just retconning it, he can also explain how certain information came into the quote original text, which may not have actually been original. It may have been a edited form of the original text based on information which only came out after the start of The Lord of the Rings. So it just goes to show again how Tolkien is always thinking about how to make everything fit, even when it comes to The Hobbit, which he had to, in some sense, radically alter to make fit into the world that he later developed into in The Lord of the Rings. So I just thought that was a really cool idea, and it made a lot of sense to put it for a Hobbit Day video because, of course, it's about literally The Hobbit, the story that started it all. So, hope you enjoyed that look into a possible way of explaining this, and if you did enjoy it, of course, please like and share. Check if this is coming out on Hobbit Day, there will be a link for all the other videos. There will be a playlist for all the other videos coming out today from all the other Tolkien tubers. I've got alternate platform links and social links and support links in the description below, as well as an affiliate link to Zero Shoes if you're interested in barefoot shoes. And until the next time, I'm the Tolkien Geek signing out for the Tolkien Lore channel. Namarie. Thanks to all my channel supporters, especially elf friends Paul Leone and Nathan Dufour.